Hi, I'm Luke. Today on Auto Darts, we are going to look at the Ultra 4 and the Ultra 5. Ultra has been on shelves for a little less than a year now, and starting with the Ultra 1 and the Ultra 2, I've been relatively disappointed with the series overall. The Ultra 2 is a pretty cool blaster when you consider the mod potential, and people have done some really cool stuff with it. We are going to be offering a lot of upgrade kits for the Ultra 2, including cages and an upgraded cylinder and a few other little options. That being said, the next two offerings from this lineup I thought I would do a double review because I didn't think they deserved their own videos. We will start with the Ultra 4. The Ultra 4 is a single shot ratchet prime gear-based fire strike, really, Ultra fire strike. It's a single shot, so I guess you could call it like a jolt. It shoots a single dart at a time, and the one thing I will say about it is that these new springers are far more punchy than their flywheel counterparts. My buddy Brett pointed out that these really should have come out first because I think they would have built up nicely into the lineup rather than starting with the weaker performing flywheelers. Now, for whatever reason, likely due to the large plunger tubes, these do seem to perform considerably better. The design of these blasters is very similar to the previous 1 and 2. We've got a nearly identical, terribly uncomfortable grip. I will say that the grip is slightly better than the Ultra 2 because at least I can get my finger into the trigger well here, but it is still, for my hands as an adult, very, very tight and uncomfortable. Now, if you are a 12-year-old kid, this is probably going to fit your hand very nicely. It's probably going to feel a lot better than it does for me. The blaster uses a gear mechanism to make this prime a lot lighter. That means you're priming a longer distance to increase the mechanical advantage in priming this large spring and plunger tube. I would assume this blaster will take upgrades fairly readily as long as you don't exceed the sheer strength of those gears themselves. Overall, I think this is the 4. See, it did that thing where you forget what you're talking about, you look down, it's got the number right on it. Overall, the 4 is a fairly modest blaster. It's $15, so you're not going to spend a fortune on it. I think people might have some fun with it upgrading, but I don't really see this being that practical. Now, my friends Ryan and Jesse from Silver Fox, they pointed out that you really have to cram this dart in here to get it to fire. If you do not push this dart in far enough, it literally won't fire because it's not engaging what I assume is the sort of dart DRM or smart AR that only allows this exact style dart to be fired out of this. But if you, say, put it only there and prime it, it will not fire, even though, as pictured on the box, they show this dart protruding. But what you really need to do is shove it totally recessed in there, and then you can fire. Now, on the darts themselves, these Sonic Screamers are a nice addition to the Ultra lineup. Now, I'm still not a huge fan of Ultra. That should be fairly obvious. So this is a pretty biased review because it is my opinion. But these darts are a little bit more fun. The whistling is really satisfying, just like it was on the Mega. The darts seem to whistle a little bit louder than the Mega, and I think that's partially due to the higher FPS that the Ultra can put out on the Springer blasters. Moving on to the Ultra 5, we have the latest, highest number. Where did 3 go? We don't know. It'll be coming eventually. The Ultra 5 is an internal mag-fed blaster, a little bit like the Magnus, if you remember that, which was a 3-shot blaster. This is also, you would think 5 shots, given that it is a Ultra 5, but it appears, oh, I think it's 4. It's 4. So the Ultra 5 fits 4 darts. Hasbro, come on. Why didn't you just switch the numbers? Be a little bit better. I guess the numbers make no sense, just it doesn't matter. So you've got a top slide. You've got a large top slide with, again, a geared system for a larger mechanical advantage in priming this large, stronger plunger tube. I think inside you've probably got a pretty similar plunger tube to the Ultra 4, and I would imagine pretty good room for an upgraded spring. That being said, I haven't taken this apart yet. Now, This is a pretty funky blaster. Starting from the ergonomics, they have immediately made a bad grip worse by requiring you to shove all of your fingers into this thing, into this knuckle duster sort of thing here. And my middle finger is, now I have big hands, but my middle finger is literally large enough to get stuck as I pull it out. So this is extremely uncomfortable. If this was my blaster, I would immediately hack off all of these parts, or possibly just get a different blaster altogether. We've got the standard on all the Ultra blasters. We've got that nice gold leaf that will disappear as you actually use the blaster or set it down on anything. It's come off on my Ultra 2, and my Ultra 2 has hardly been used, so that's a little disappointing. We do see that from the leaks we saw earlier and other variants of the blaster that were shown, they've added this longer muzzle. I would assume that this longer muzzle is a safety feature so that you can't get a finger in there and jam this slide back into your hand. What is going on with this trigger? I seem to be having problems firing this every time I fire it. That's great. So presumably there's an opening here that you could get your finger past if you weren't careful, and I think this additional distance is stopping you from pinching your finger inside there. So I would assume that's the change. I doubt it was just for cosmetics because it looks a little funky, chunky kind of look. Overall, I'm not thrilled with these new blasters, but I do think they're actually substantially better than the flywheel offerings. The two flywheel blasters just don't perform that well. They don't fire that far. They are pretty underpowered given the size of the flywheels and the stock batteries. I think the springers seem a lot more punchy and they seem to have a little more kick. They're actually quite satisfying to fire, given that they've got a nice heavy chunk to them. But ultimately, I don't really see myself playing with this in a battle. The Ultra 5 especially has a pretty poor loading system here. I just cannot imagine. First, you have to make sure that this slides all the way back, and then even when it is, it's a really awkward fit getting those darts loaded in here one by one. And I just can't see doing this while running around on the field. It is just clunky. The Magnus was far easier to load as far as an internal magazine, but it ultimately is what it is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on both these blasters. Does the price point of, I believe, $20 and $15 make sense? Does it something you would add to your arsenal? And what upgrades would you like to see for it? Obviously, a spring seems pretty logical. I might take the time to do that, but I don't imagine I'm going to go too much further than that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you love the Ultra, no hard feelings. Everybody has their own opinion. That's the best part about having more offerings. I think having more lines and blaster offerings from any blaster company is a great idea, even if Hasbro right now is giving me a pile of stuff that I just don't want. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm out of darts.